All right, and welcome to the Chopping It Up show. I'm your host, Joe Beard. Happy to be of service for you today. Today is, what is it, September 28th, 2024. It is 4:08 on the West Coast and 7:08 on the East Coast. We appreciate all those listening live, whether you are listening or at any platform or watching or whatever it is. We are a lot of places now, so hey, we appreciate the support. So I'm really excited today to have another guest. Always excited about talking to people that I march with. That's just a little teaser right there. But I've been trying to get this dude on the podcast for a minute, and I finally got a hold of him. You guys welcome Kemuel Murray. How you doing in this podcast, man?
Man, I appreciate you having me, Joe, man. You know what I'm saying? I know we've been trying to get together, man, but I'm just so thankful, man, that you brought me through, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you doing it. You got a lot going on, and we'll get into it. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So, Kemuel, where are you from, man?
Man, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've lived here my entire life. I'm about four generations deep on my father's side of
Wow.
people that kind of grew up in Charlotte. My family's kind of like originally from South Carolina on my father's side, and on my mother's side, they're from Eastern North Carolina. So this Charlotte's been home, like I say, all my life, man, 47 years.
Okay, okay, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. And so yeah, I appreciate. That was my next question is, where are your parents from? So both your parents from South Carolina?
Well, my dad is from Charlotte as well. My mother is from Eastern North Carolina. It's a place called Washington, North Carolina. Uh,
Oh
most people
wow.
most people from North Carolina call it Little Washington. So it's a small town, but that's where she's from.
Okay, okay, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. So I always, especially with the folks grow up down south, y'all have the HBCU culture. You know what I'm saying? What would you say was your first exposure to like HBCUs?
Man, really, my only exposure was being here in Charlotte and Johnson C. Smith being here. And so during that time, the CIAA they had like North Carolina Central, A&T, Howard. When I was growing up, that was the schools that was a part of it. So I mean, I got to see all type of bands come through when I was at just growing up here in Charlotte, man. We went to a lot of the games. I mean, that was like something you did in Charlotte. So
Right. Okay. Okay. That's what's up, man. So, where did you end up going to high school there?
I went to Garinger High School. So it's on the east side of Charlotte. It's funny. It was predominantly black school, but it was a good mixture of kind of everybody. But it was a pretty rough school, kind of coming through. So most people that when you say in Charlotte that you graduated from Garinger and you still alive, that's
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. Because a couple times when I was there, I think we were there, but no, I had no idea. Because I mean, it looked like a nice school. So
it looks like a nice school, man, but some of the roughest people from Charlotte, kind of went through that school, man. And I tell people, man, my first day there, I was a sophomore. They didn't have ninth grade, but sophomore, my first day there, literally my first day there. I'm going to my homeroom class, and there's a guy walking down the hallway. I hope it's okay, smoking a blunt, man. It's literally my first day of high school, 1993. My first day of high school.
wow, walking down.
No change, all that, man. It was the whole. Yeah, my school was real. My school was really real.
Okay, that's what's up, man. I did not. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, wow. So now you already said that um you had the exposure there with Smith and going to the games and all that stuff. Did you know that you wanted to play an instrument? Like how did you start your musical career?
Man, I started. It was a fifth grade. I started off on trumpet, uh,
Okay.
and by sixth grade, I had switched to baritone. And I only wanted to play trumpet because a guy in my neighborhood, he was a little bit older than me. He had started band before me, and he started in the band. So I was like, hey, I want to be in the band too, you know. So it's not anything that I thought I was going to be good at. Like my dad thought I was going to drop it from the beginning, but literally, and I wanted to play drums, but you know, everybody can't play drums.
Right.
So
Right.
uh,
Right.
they put me on trumpet, and it was funny. Excuse me. The lady, she was like a music teacher, orchestra. She was an orchestra teacher, and they were going around doing some little test of how you're going to be in the band and what instrument you should play. And I was mad I couldn't play drums, and she said, "You got the lips for the trumpet." And I'm like, "What that mean?" But okay, that's what she told me, man.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy. Okay. All right. So fifth grade, um, is that when like the band program started for people at your school?
yeah. Fifth grade was like when you could be in the orchestra or you could be in the band.
Okay.
So you know, it was a way to get out of class. So
Right.
yeah, yeah. Oh man, get out of class. So anyway, like you know, he was in band, and we actually had Mr. Henry. I cannot think of his first name, but he was actually a jazz musician here in Charlotte. And I mean, he to be in the fifth grade, sixth grade under him, I didn't realize it until I got to high school who
Right.
we really had. But I mean, he started us out, you know, really, really good.
Okay. Okay. And then I guess when you got to Garinger, did you know that you wanted to march in the marching band there?
Actually, no.
Really?
No, I was in junior high school, and man. We had a great band director. It was my first time having a black teacher. He was my band director, Mr. Jones, Chris Jones' brother. Um,
What?
yeah,
That was your first director?
I met Chris, man. I was in the first time I met Chris. I was in the seventh grade.
Wow.
That's how long I've been knowing Chris. I met him in the set when I was in the seventh grade, and his brother was my band director. And his brother, man, challenged us. Like, so I went from like Mr. Henry to Mr. Jones, and I mean, he challenged us, man. You know, so it was like always grade five, grade six music, man. So it was like we were introduced to, you know, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, okay. See, I didn't know that. I just always thought that, I mean, you met Chris in college. So what made you decide to march in high school?
Um, funny. So I was still in the band at school, man. But I was going between this because I'm at Garinger. I was going between this. Do I want to be a thug or do I want to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, that type.
Right.
But but I wasn't like a regular thug. I was like this pretty thug that wore khakis and stuff. But you know what I'm saying? I was still like but you had to be hard or whatever. So I was in the band. And one of my friends that was in junior high school with me, he was like, "Yo, you know, so you should go in the marching band." I was like, "Man, I ain't doing no marching band." I said, "I like playing my instrument, but I ain't about to do no marching band." And he was like,
Hmm.
"Man, listen." He was like, "You need to go in the marching band, man. We got these girls on these trips, man, and I'm telling you, you need to get in the band." That is my reason for joining the marching band.
Wow. Oh, okay.
That's my reason, man.
Hey, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Okay, so wow. Okay, so this started out wow. See, I one thing like it's cool that doing these shows is, even though I might know someone or I met, it's some stuff I always find out new. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So with you, especially someone growing up there in Charlotte, I just always think that okay, I seen the marching band and then I knew I wanted to march. You know what I'm saying? So that's not always the case with everybody. But that's crazy, man, dude. Smoking a blunt, smoke like or back in Charlotte when they said an L.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? An
That's what
L.
it was. That's what it was. It was an A.
Right,
That's
right.
exactly what it did.
That's what's up. Okay, okay. All right. So you at Garinger. Did you join? And I heard you say y'all were 10th, 11th, and 12th grade at your
Yeah,
high school.
10th, 11th, and 12th grade. We didn't have ninth grade until my 12th grade year. Uh,
Okay.
but I joined the band my junior year. the marching band. And it was funny because we went through band camp. Band camp was like for like 2 weeks. And during that 2 weeks, never marched in the band, never, you know what I'm saying, played an instrument. And we were roll stepping. So, you know what I'm saying? I was at a predominantly
Okay.
black school, predominantly black band, roll stepping. And I became horn line captain and section leader after that 2 weeks. And so I mean, I really liked it. I really got into it once I got into the march band.
Okay. And you say you started in the 11th grade?
Yeah, 11th grade.
Wow. So did you keep playing all of that time?
Yeah. I was in the symphonic band and the marching band. So I mean, I
Oh,
played all year long. So you know, I went from a marching baritone to a concert baritone. But and I really liked the concert part of it. That was like my favorite because I got a lot of solos as a baritone player.
okay.
But being in the marching band, man, it was like something different. And so like my junior year, man, I was all in.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now you all in your junior year. You then go into your senior year.
Yeah.
Um, did you know that you wanted to go to college somewhere? And then if you wanted to go, were you planning on marching somewhere?
No. Even though I was drum majored at my senior year in high school, and so I did not know I wanted to march in a band. I was asked. It was funny because um, they were trying to take students from high school to march at Johnson C. Smith, and
Wow.
I didn't want to do it. They had students from West Charlotte, you know, like I said, it was a black school, but we rolled step, but they were taking anybody. And so I was like, nah, I didn't want to do it. And so I really was having like these bad anxiety attacks my 12th grade year because I didn't know if I wanted to go in college. I didn't know if I wanted to go into the military. So I enrolled. It was funny, man. 'Cause I had did an audition for FAMU. I had did an audition there for Prairie View. Prairie View actually came.
What?
It came to Garinger, man, and they did. And I did an audition in front of the band director there. Um, and so I, FAMU wasn't offering enough money. Prairie View was too
Right.
far. And so it was like Mr. Gray called me, I want to say the day before band camp started and asked me was I going to still come. And it just so happened I had enrolled, I had applied to like all of these different schools and I got in at Johnson C. Smith and pretty much he got me through the paperwork and I got to band camp and it was like the third day of band camp. And I really did not know I was going to march in the band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was, I'm sure that was stressful.
Man, it was stressful because, like I said, I literally I joined the army before he said that, and so I told them, okay, I said I don't want to go in right now. They said they'll do it in January, so that gave me a whole semester at Smith, being in the band, and then that next semester I took off and actually I was doing my basic training, my AIT, all of those things. And so that's how confused I was. I didn't know whether I wanted to be in the army. I didn't know whether I wanted to go to school. So I was like, and I could go to school for free, man. I was
Right.
on, my mom worked there, so it was like Smith was like, okay, it's free. You know, it was something to, okay, so I don't get in trouble. So that was the best thing for me.
Right. And Smith, I mean, I understand this now, like as a parent, but Smith was expensive. Well, Smith, it still is expensive.
Oh man, it's crazy expensive now. I mean, I don't even know how them students are doing it.
Right.
At the time for me, because my mom worked there and they had like a tuition remission thing where I could go to school for free. And so that's what I did. I actually just I took that and said, okay, I'll go to school for free, and that's what I did. Because like I said, nobody else was offering me like a full ride anywhere. So
Right. So that's actually answered my next question because I honestly seen that picture of your service picture before. I think probably something I think maybe you posted on like Veterans Day or something like that.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
So I was like, yeah, how did you go? So you went to Smith that fall, and then you went off
Yep.
to they. And how long were you? Where did you go?
So I went Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
What? You was in
Right.
Missouri?
Yeah, I was right near St. Louis. Yep.
Oh wow.
so
Okay.
so I went there for my basic training. And then for my schooling, I went to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. So pretty
Wow.
much that took me until July, and I came back to Charlotte in July after all of that.
Okay. Now, did you like stay in the army? I mean, I guess you can't like leave.
So I was in the reserves. I didn't join. That's I'll tell you the confusing part. I didn't join the full army. I joined as a reservist. So basically, I was just gonna have to go on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, to do my once a month, to do my service or whatever, in like 2 weeks out of the summer.
Wow. I've heard of the reserves before. I just didn't know like what that was.
Yeah, so basically,
Um,
I mean, I ain't mean to cut you off, but it's just your reserves, and to stay in training, they have like, okay, you come once a month, you do your training during the summer, you do 2 weeks of training, and if they ever call on you, which is funny because I joined my unit here in Charlotte, and they had just got back from Saudi Arabia. And
wow.
I joined them. They were talking about it, and it's funny because when my contract was up, they left again for the another war there again. So it was like I got in, and in between those years was out.
Okay. Okay. So you have a contract and you do that for so many, and then I guess you had the option to go back in or renew or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I decided not to renew it.
Okay. 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 That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So when did you finish Garinger?
Graduated in '95, so that's when I got to John C. Smith in '95.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now you at Smith, you did the reserves, and then so when you went back then in the fall of 96, then
Yeah, so I come back that July. My mother is working at Smith. She tells Mr. Gray I'm back in Charlotte. She was like, "Oh, my son is back," that type of thing. He said,
okay.
he said, "Give me a call." Do I tell my mom to give me a call? So I call him, and he said, "Hey, I want you to come to the office." And it was funny because I get to the office that year. Chris was about to be drum major. It was Chris D Lakes, and
Wow.
I can't Bradley.
Brad, yeah.
You remember that was the year you came in.
Yeah.
So that summer he told me he wanted me to be student director. And literally I only marched in the band that one semester. And came back and he told me he wanted to be student director. So I had a lot of people like, what does that mean? So it was kind of crazy when I got back.
Right. Okay. So did he have a student? Did Smith always have a student director then?
Yeah, so it's funny because the student director before me was a guy named Kid. Kid left.
Oh, I heard of him.
Yeah,
Okay.
kid left school. The gentleman before me, God rest his soul, was a guy named Cedric. He was supposed to be drum major with D Lakes when I came in, but he couldn't be, and so but he was the student director at that time as well. So all three of us were light skinned. So that's what everybody said, that oh, we all looked alike. It was all the light skinned brothers that got student director or whatever. But you know what it is. It is what it is.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. So now you about to start. And so this, honestly, I don't know if you remember this, but this is when I met you.
Yes, I remember, man.
Okay.
Like,
Oh, bet. Okay.
yeah.
I had just got kicked out of Hampton. Well, maybe it had been a couple weeks for smoking weed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They was not, they was super serious about that.
I know.
And I still wanted to be on the East Coast. I was not going to Jackson State. Whatever it is, my dad was there, my family was there. I was not going there. And my grandmother lived down the street. Because you remember you've been to my grandma's house.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were like, Smith has a band. And then I think I knew someone else that had marched and played trombone there. I don't even remember his name.
Okay.
And so I was like, that would be cool. I go to college, but my grandmother was still close. So I wouldn't be that far like away from home or something like that. And of course, my grandmother was super happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I got on the phone and I called Johnson C. Smith. Like I was looking for the band room or I was looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on the phone with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like asking about the band. And you was like, yeah, it's cool. And then I remember I asked you where a lot of people were from. Because you remember at this time, it's like East Coast, West Coast, like rap and all this stuff. And I remember I liked, I wanted to be like East Coast, like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I remember I asked you if there were people from New York there
Yeah.
and something, and you were like, yeah, there's people from the tri-state area, something like that.
Yeah.
But you put on the band, like you talked about the band, and so I remember I was weighing, I didn't know what I was gonna do, and so after I got off the phone with you, I was like, I'm going to Smith. I'll never forget that. I hung up and I called my grandmother first. I hadn't even told my parents, and I told her because I knew she was gonna be excited. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be so excited you here," and she, she started to say, "Oh, I'm gonna set this up for you," and all this stuff like that. And that's how I ended up at Smith. But I remember I called you and talked to you and got off the phone. I was like, I talked to him. I was like, "Yep, I'm going to Smith." I'll never forget that, man.
Man, you caught me at a time when I was basically like working, man. I wasn't just student director. Like I was taking people on tours. I was
Wow.
on, like I was doing all that, taking the letters to the recruitment. It was all that. And I really got to learn like the inside of the marching band, especially John C. Smith marching band. I really got to learn the inside of it and kind of how like it works. So yeah, man, you caught me at a crazy time.
That's what's up, man. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. All right. So now you at Smith now. What would you say was your most memorable experience marching there at Smith? And if you got more than one, that's cool.
That's what I was gonna say. To put it in a nutshell, man, it was the people. It was the first time. Even though it was a crazy like eclectic motley crew in the marching band. I mean, you
Right.
kind of, I mean, it was a different people, man. But I would just say, man, it was one of the best experiences that I had. Like I could not get it out of me.
Mhm.
Going from roll stepping to high stepping was a whole new thing for me. And marching like that, playing my horn like that. And at that time, when I first got into the band, I had a guy that came in from A&T who actually played ball at Smith, who wanted to march in the band. He had marched at A&T, played basketball, but he came to Smith to play basketball, but he wanted to march in the band as well. Learned and he was only there for like 3 or 4 days during band camp. But man, learning from him those 3 or 4 days, like it was just so many things that like took me to the next level, like playing baritone, man. Like I had some really good people like to really teach me, man. All those guys that played trombone, man, they were like, they were all teaching me how to really play, man. So it was good.
Okay. Okay. Um, so I'm gonna ask you probably like if you had a certain event or a certain something to happen, but one thing that I thought about, another thing I thought about you is like I was scared because I mean, you're a freshman.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you were scared. And I remember band camp and like, I mean, you remember Mr. Gray.
Yeah.
So like when he was like, you gotta be ready, it's gotta be disciplined and being on time. And I was like, damn, they asking a lot. Like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
so
Right.
so then we had to do, PT or the physical stuff. And then y'all said take a tour of the campus.
The tour of the campus.
And I remember because I had ran track in high school.
Oh, I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, okay, this may be distance or something like that. So I'm gonna be straight. And you said backwards. I had never run backwards. I don't know. I don't want to say 20 yards in my life. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And I remember you were out front. And do you remember man, the brother? He played French horn. Damien, what's his name? I think went to
You
Burke
talking
High
about,
School.
we played the dreads from you talking about
He didn't have dress. He had a low cut.
oh, okay.
And
Talking about I can't think of his name, but I know you're talking about. I know
we
you're
went
talking
to his high school
Yeah.
that year, Burke High School. I remember.
Yeah.
And he was out front with you, and I was like, man, I don't know about this. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, that church is across the street.
Yeah.
Okay. Went and got some churches because I definitely developed like this stress eating thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, churches is right there.
Ooh.
And we got sick. I had left practice one night and I almost didn't make it to listing because we're listing. Okay. So my stomach toe up, right?
Oh, got to be.
Toe up. And I didn't come to practice that next day.
Okay.
And I think, we had the phones in the dorm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mr. Gray called me or somebody called me and they were like, where are you? And I was like, I'm sick for real.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day or later on, you and Mr. Gray came to my dorm room. You remember that?
I don't remember that, but that's something that could have happened. That sounds about right.
You came in there to make sure, like, to try to gauge the situation or if I was about to quit or about to go home.
Yeah.
But I was embarrassed to tell people that churches had told me up like that. I mean, it was bad. You know what I'm saying?
I think Mr. Gray. I kind of remember that Mr. Gray thought it was something else, and that's why you were sick, and so he was trying to figure out, like, hey, is this really what it is?
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say, you know what I'm saying? It was church.
I know. Yeah.
It told me up. So then later, I think the second day I got better and my grandmother brought me some food.
Okay.
And I think I told somebody, probably Steve or somebody, because I started getting close. And he told somebody that my grandmother was bringing me like steak and potatoes and just a whole bunch of stuff.
Can't do that.
Right. So I think later, Chris Jones came over.
Mm-hmm.
When he was like, are you about to quit? I heard your grandma got you some steak and potato. Like, he was going off on me. I was about to start crying because Chris, and I was little. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is so serious. So I remember I called my parents. I was like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I was like, maybe this a sign. Like, I don't know. Like, plus I was still raveling from getting kicked out of one school.
I remember this. Now, keep going.
Yeah. So I was like, man, I was like, I'm not sure. But then they were like, man, you made it this far. You fine. You got to show up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I came back the next day, and I can't remember who I told, like, that they was churches. And they were like, man, what you go to churches for? It seemed like everybody knew except me.
Except you. Except you.
Right. So I was already like, damn, man, like, Kemuel, man, like, I think, like, you know what I'm saying, I want to make sure I make it up. Because I remember talking to you on the phone. I thought you was cool, and you came to the room to check on me and stuff. And plus, I had started to like Mr. Gray at that point too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, I didn't want to disappoint Mr. Gray. So that was my second Kemuel story. I got a third Kemuel story too.
Yeah.
Okay. So this fall of '96, what would you say, other than like just in a nutshell, was there like a specific game or was there like something specific that you could remember, like that it'll always be with you marching with Smith?
Um, I think it was a lot of moments. I remember one year we're going to South Carolina State for their homecoming, and we might have been about 65, 70 people. But man, we rocked that crowd. You
Yeah.
know, man, when I say rock the crowd, I mean, and to go into South Carolina State at that point on their homecoming and have them clap for you, that man, that meant the world to us. And then let me just go back to this other moment. So my first year there, we might have been about, and I'm not talking about auxiliary. I'm not counting like flags and all that. I'm just talking about people that play the horn. We
Right.
we might have been about 50 deep. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And man, we went to Norfolk State. And it was their homecoming. Everybody wanted to beat up on Smith for home, for their home.
Right.
So man, we go up there first time marching on AstroTurf. And Norfolk State is humongous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we count, they got like 25 trombones, it's like 20 tubas. I mean, it was like big band.
Mm-hmm.
For their crowd to cheer for us the way they did. Like, man, you couldn't tell us anything. Like, you could not tell us that we were 50 people. You couldn't tell that, you know what I'm saying? You couldn't tell us anything. Like, because I mean, we went to other people's schools, and that was the stuff that I guess excited me the most, man. And to go to Norfolk State during their homecoming and for that crowd to cheer for us the way they did, no, I mean, not a boo in the I mean, people coming on our band room bus talking about, our band bus talking about, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the stuff I'll take that with me forever, man. That's the stuff that I man made me love the band.
Right. Right. And that was one of mine as far as like my band experiences when we went to South Carolina State in '96.
Yes,
and we went there in '96, and then we did it was the Pope Pimp State. Do you want to ride?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that too, how they were like, oh, like they whole crowd. Like, and the other thing I remember about that whole week, we were so locked in.
Yeah.
Like it was like we were going to war.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that was like a great week of practice. We show up late, and I mean, and then even in the stands,
yeah,
like, we were excited, enthusiasm. And I have a friend, Ernest Stackhouse, and he does the show with me. He marched to South Carolina State, and he said, man, he said that blew them away because they saw us and they were like, oh, this a bye week.
A little bit, yeah. We were about to tag them up.
Right. And then he said when they saw us, they were like, oh, okay. And he said it was like we were having a party and they couldn't do nothing because, I mean, you know how it is. You sleep on somebody, you done slept. That's it. You ain't ready.
Get knocked out doing stuff like that.
Right. Exactly. So that moment was always special to me. And then that's when I was like, I'm always have love for Smith because, like you said, it was a mix of people, but we were a family.
Yeah.
At Jackson State, the band is bigger and you tend to be closer to the people that play your instrument.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? But the whole band was cool. We kicked it every night, everybody. You remember?
Oh man, we it was a family. And I mean, we go back to those moments, man. It was like a blur, man. It was just fun moments of just hanging together, man. I don't lie to you, man. I don't know if I ever told you. I hated when you left, man. We were all about, at that moment, we were all about, hey, we see the potential in somebody. Now, if you were sorry, we didn't care if you left, man. You wanted to leave. Okay, you quit. Okay.
Right.
Like you couldn't let talent go. You know what I'm saying? We had, at that time, man, we were you had a little bit of the house of prayer coming in, so you had some players that was there for that. So you had at that year you were coming in. So it the year you were coming in, the old guard of trumpet players were gone.
Mm-hmm.
So they were looking for a new guard at that time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think y'all section lead at that time, God rest his soul, was Brian Hughes. But he was even on his way out at that time. So it was like, it was a whole new crop,
Mm-hmm.
new crop. And man, to have somebody that actually could play, yeah, it hurt when you left, man, because I was like, dog, I said that would have set the trumpet players off on another level, man. So
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I wanted to stay, but of course my dad was not thrilled at all. I mean,
yeah,
he raised me to go to Jackson State, you
yeah,
know. But what honestly did it was Dudley. You remember Dudley came to Charlotte?
man. Let me tell you something. Joe, on some real talk, man. Hey, cut the tape. I don't care. Listen to this, man. When they came into our stadium on our homecoming day, and you had this high school band point their instruments at us, it was, it was, man, it hurt me. It hurts me to this day.
Yes.
It hurts me to this day. How a high school band could sound like that, first of all. Could be from North Carolina. That was another thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the blow on us the way they did. And not
Yes.
one time. I'm talking about multiple times blowing on us. Like we were on a level. Um,
Right.
when I say that hurt my feelings, uh, it also I will say this. It put me in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was at Smith, and we were in a fantasy land of thinking, hey, we might be small, but we just as good as any band out there.
Right.
And that gave me such a reality check. Um, it it made me look at bands totally different at that point. Because I could not believe a high school band, and I'm talking about not just blow on us.
Yes.
We couldn't do anything about it. Blow on us.
Right.
That man, boy, come on, man.
Yeah, that hurt. That hurt because I had never experienced that before. So I remember Sammy, uh, he was like, don't say nothing to him. He was like, don't do nothing. Because you remember they were throwing their arms up and
Remember?
everything.
I remember.
Uh, and the trombones played back at him.
Yep, which they should not have.
Should not have. And then I remember Sammy said, don't do nothing, don't do nothing. And I remember I looked over at Frog, Tyrekus.
Yeah, fraud.
I was like, Frog, we don't have nothing to play. Like, and Frog was like, yeah, I know, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? And we was like, oh, like we was hurt.
Everybody
I
was.
man. Then they did the post game. They did a halftime show, and then they did Hay in the Middle of the Barn, and I was like, that's dope. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, and then we forgot the go. Like, it that hurt. And so I remember I called my dad that night and I was like, I told him what happened. And he was like, well, that's your choice. You gotta stick it out. And he's like, you can't quit. He was like, I don't want you to quit. He's like, I'd rather you stay. You know what I'm saying? And after that, that's when I was like, oh man, like I don't know. And then I found out that I was playing on a messed up mouthpiece. And I was
No.
like, well, who at Smith? I was playing on a mouthpiece and I was like super out of tune most games.
Okay.
Super out of tune. And I just did not know. And so I was like, man, I didn't want to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had just met these people, like, these my friends. Like, so that's what ended up. And I felt bad too. But I was like, man, I don't know if I could have that other experience. But it was Dudley that really did it. You know what I'm
Man,
saying?
listen, I can wholeheartedly understand that, man.
Mhm.
That made me want to hide under a rock. Uh, I have. It was almost like, somebody had just like slapped me and I couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
A high school band. And you know what the part is that at that time we was like listening to everybody bands. I mean, they sounded just like A&T at the time, man. Like sounded
Mm-hmm.
just like them, just like a little mini A&T. And you know what? I have noticed that I don't know, but I would say 7, 8, 9 years, we could not recruit one student from Dudley to come to Smith.
Wow.
Not
Wow.
student from Dudley came to Smith.
Oh, that hurt. Because we
Yeah,
went there this in the spring, didn't we?
we went to Dudley. We went to some other schools and did the recruitment type thing. And I remember, and I said in my head, I said, we're not going to get a student from there. And not one student. I can remember everybody I marched with. And just asking people where they were from after me, and we were not getting any students from Dudley. None of them. Uh, and I think it was from that moment, man. They looked at us like, man, like, man, it was so disrespectful. I remember even Mr. Gray talking. Who I can't remember the guy's name. I could see his face. I remember Mr. Gray even talking to him about that. He was pissed that they
Mhm.
were bumping us, and and in my mind, I'm like, well, if you got your stuff together, you shouldn't worry about that. Like, like you cannot get mad about that.
Right. Right.
No.
Yeah. And that's what did it. I mean, that's what did it for me. Um, but I always tried to always keep in touch because
Oh, you did.
um small world, I think I think some people that I met at Jackson State were from South Carolina and North
Hmm.
Carolina.
Hmm.
Um, Calvin,
Yeah, yeah,
God rest his soul. I
yeah.
met him when he came and marched with us for South Carolina State.
Hmm.
His cousin, Small World, was like my best friend at Jackson State, Avery McFadden.
Okay.
And the coldest trumpet player. Well, it was one other guy. His name was Deshaun Kemp. He was like amazing, but
Hmm.
Avery was like on a whole nother level. He was good, and he actually became trumpet section leader our sophomore year. That's how good he was.
Yeah, yeah,
And from Florence, South Carolina. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Um, and so I remember he said he was from South Carolina, and I said I just transferred from Johnson C. Smith, and he said my cousin Calvin. I was like, that's your cousin, like, you know what I'm saying? So it was a small world, and then we came back, I think, for our spring break, and I brought Avery, and like, we had
Mm.
fun and everything, but I always appreciate Smith because it definitely was a family.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? There were people I marched with at Jackson State, like I knew they face, but I didn't even know them. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
that wasn't the case for us.
yeah.
Um,
I know exactly what you mean, man.
yeah, yeah. So I got one more Kemuel story. So we are, I think we playing Winston Salem, and you remember Winston Salem? They were good too. Like
Yeah,
I mean, they were going back and forth with us.
yeah.
And I remember, like, I had got to a point where I had the big head at Smith.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I wasn't following my music like I used to, because my dad told me if you take your music and you memorize the fingerings, that'll help you memorize it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I stopped doing that for like a couple of weeks. And we were playing something, and you were directly in front of me
Hmm.
in the stands for
Uh,
Winston-Salem State. And I was messing up. and you was the first person. You turned around, you was like, Joe Beard, you need to get on your music. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that.
Oh, you straight up told me, and I was like, damn. I was like, that hurt, but he right. And so I started getting back on it because I was like, man, I can't fall off. Like you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
But I was like, Kemuel has, he done always kept me in check. I got off the phone with him to come to Smith. Him and Mr. Gray checking on me in my room, and he checking me at the Winston-Salem State game. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, Joe Beard, you need to get on your music. That's what you said. You said it loud too. So I know.
Because I didn't care, man. I believe I said that, man. But I would say, man, when especially when your group came in, and it was I was just coming back to Smith from the military. I got to know every last one of y'all. Like, if I didn't talk to you on the phone, I toured you around the school. I met everybody. If your parents came up there, I met them. Like, that's how much I was in the band room at that point, man. I was there all the time, and I got to meet so many different like I still I see Tara, and I say, man, tell your mama I say hey, or there's so many people that came in with y'all, or even a year after, man, that they mamas know me or they daddies know me. I still talk to them, to this day, you know what I'm saying? Because I got to meet a lot of people, man, by being student director. I really did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we really did have like a good chemistry.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? We were a family. And I've always appreciated that about Smith. I just got worried. I was like, man, I need to get better. And so then of course I went to Jackson. You say what now?
Smith would have held you back, man.
Yeah.
I could tell you back. You know what I'm saying? When you got that, man, when you got to Jackson State, man, watching you there, seeing videos and stuff like that, man. Because at that time, man, we were passing VHSs around like it wasn't nothing, man. Going around, I like, look at Joe, man, up there, and it was like, no, you could tell, man, you were flourishing out there, man. Like you could tell you was really in the element that you were supposed to be in. Like
right.
At Smith, it was like you had the potential, but there I could tell you were like, nah, this is where I need to be.
Right. Because I mean, it was like I didn't know all 12 scales. Like there was stuff that they broke down to the beginning. And the main thing when I found out about the mouthpiece, I was like, damn, man. So I really put in the work to change, but it did feel comfortable because they had the auditioning, like when we were going the road. Like, it was a pressure situation where just like when you told me to get on my music, it was like that every week. And I'll never forget one thing that I hated, but it did make me practice was when something wasn't right in the band room, they would go down the line and have individual people play stuff. Oh man, I hated that, man, because it was in front of everybody. And so I had to get over that and start being able to play in front of people by myself.
Yeah.
And so that helped. And then, the level of musicianship and all that stuff. Dog, I remember I thought I was screaming at Smith, but no. So you remember we had the baritone music. So we had a lot of the baritone music. So a lot of stuff we had was on the staff.
Okay.
And I thought me taking it up an octave was screaming.
No, sir.
No, sir. No. So yeah, that was huge to me. And that was like what we were supposed to play just as a first trumpet player.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, it was just a lot of stuff I didn't know. But man, it was fun, man. We had so much fun. You know what I'm saying?
Even just the year you were there, man, you like, man, what? I mean, it's not like we talk every day, but just like, it's like it didn't finish. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like we stop right here and it's like we just pick back up like where we left off at, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, could you just remember those times, man? Like I remember getting to know you, know what I'm saying? Those things, man. So it was it was it was a fun, great time, man. I kind of wish I did some things different, But at the same time, man, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't
Right.
trade.
Right. Now, were you there at Smith in 99?
I was at Smith. Yeah, my drum major year was 98. I got out of the band 99.
Okay.
At that point, man, I was on my third time getting kicked out of school.
What? You
Yes, sir.
at
My
Smith?
At Smith. I
What?
academics. Man, I was in the band. I wasn't going to no classes.
Yeah.
I'm hanging with Chris Jones. Yeah, I'm putting his name out there. Hanging with Chris Jones. Now think about this. I met Chris when I was in 7th grade. He was at Smith then.
Right.
When I got there, he was still at Smith.
Right.
Now, 7th grade is when I met this guy. And so, hanging with him, man, thinking, oh, this is all you do, just be in the band, you know what I'm saying, smoke weed, you know what I'm saying, oh, that's all we do. And man, I got kicked out the third time. And I remember Dr. Yancey was like, I'm not giving you any more chances.
Wow, really?
Man, I had a grade change. I had stuff had happened. And she was like, this is the last time. She said, I'm only doing this because your mama work here. And that was after my drum major year, I said, I'm finished with band. I was like, I'm not gonna be drum major next year. I said, I am finishing school. And that's when I made the determination I'm going to finish school.
Okay. Wow. I did not know that. I mean, it makes sense because I was the same way. When I transferred to Jackson State, I was a freshman again because D's don't transfer. Like
understandable. Yeah.
Right. And I had a little bit of that to get through that first year at Jackson State. And then my parents was like, we not going to be paying all this money for you to just be in the band, And so then I got on academic probation. So then that's when I started getting it together. And they were hardcore. Now I remember you talk about Chris, Buck was there, and even just the other people that was with us, they was cracking down on that at Jackson State. Like they had no room for that at all.
See, I wish they were doing that at Smith at the time.
Oh man. In fact, there was a guy because they called him Super Sci.
That's Chris.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that. Our drum major, my first year at Jackson State, was named Super Sci.
Yes. Okay, Chris. Yes, I met him. Go ahead.
My fault. From Indiana.
From Indiana, yes.
And I told him about Chris and all of that, and what I came from Johnson C. Smith and all of that, and they got him after the first game. I was like, oh, like, what does that mean? You got to be in school. Like to me, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And they got him and they got some other people, and I was like, well, what? And they was like, man, your purpose here is to go to school. Like it ain't just a mark. Right. This is cool, but this is supposed to help you get your education. And that's when like the light started turning on. Me being academic probation and seeing people leave. And then in that second year in 98, they got rid of a lot of people because the band in 97 was really, really good, but man, we had some clowns up in there for us. Yeah. So they got rid of a lot of people. And so then that's when I started focusing on. So I did 97, 98, and 99. And then that was it. That last year, I was like, I got to get out of here because I'm about to be a full-time bandsman. You know what I'm saying?
Man, don't get it twisted. I love the band. I love marching in it. I love the time. But man, it took so much, man. I mean, you got to think about it. Even that year you was there. How many times you got pulled out of class to go do a march through? Right. We had America. We had Harris Teeter. I don't care. We was always getting pulled out of class, man. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I think I had like a 1.8 or something like that.
Right.
man, I don't even know, man. It was so ridiculous. Um, and man, I was just like, I mean, it was so many else, man. It was ridiculous, man. I don't even know what to say, man.
Right, right. And that's how I was. I had a 1 point something transferring, but I think they looked out for me because of my dad. And like I had like 3 or 4 uncles went to. I mean, my whole family, my dad and his 6 brothers and sisters, they grew up down the street from Jackson State, so they all just went there.
Okay.
So yeah, they knew people, and so they were like looking out for me. I didn't know if I was gonna get in or not. Um, but I had a 1 point something, and so yeah, I'm glad that I eventually like got it together. But the one thing that was like the train kept moving. So when I got out, you know what I'm saying, in 2000, they were really good. And so I was like, well, you know what I'm saying, that's it. You know, I need to graduate. So
Got to get out of there, man.
I got right. So that rolls into then. And I didn't know that about you, Kemuel, man. Like I just thought I thought me, Steve, and Corey was the only people on campus that wasn't going to class. Like that
Man,
was it.
you gotta understand, man. We did a whole thing of it. I want to say you probably had less than a 10% graduation rate coming out of the marching band.
Wow.
You had so many people that had marched there, either they wasn't in school or whatever, and just not going to class, man. And I blame it on one person, but I ain't gonna put his name out there no more. But I blame it on one person, man. This person was messing. Man, we just hanging with him, man, and not going to class, and you know what I'm saying? Like, we wasn't doing what we were supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah, and I
Exactly.
see it. Them first few years, I could not see it. Um, and man, getting kicked out, and I was like, it's not like I'm dumb. I know how to do work. You know what I'm saying? It was like, oh man, I got to graduate.
Right. Right. So did you know what was your major there, Smith?
History. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I had a great teacher in in high school that was a history teacher, and he inspired me to go into history.
Okay. So me too. That was my major.
Yeah, yeah. About that, yeah.
I first was music, and music towed me out the frame. Like chords, and Jackson State's music program was like legendary. And I
Yeah.
actually found out that your marching band, like it's really a reflection of the music program.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got
Right.
good, so right. So I remember that first semester, I had to take piano. I was like, what do I gotta take piano for? And I had music appreciation, or no, I had music theory, and you had to
Mhm.
play the piano and music theory.
Yeah,
And I
I
said,
can believe
nope.
that.
I
I can
said,
believe
nope. They for our final, they gave us 2 songs, Misty and Cheesecake. I'll
Oh
never forget that.
wow.
And I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. So I got through like midterms and I changed my major.
Mm.
And then I went into history. Um, so you finished. When did you finish?
December of 2000.
Okay. Okay. December 2000. You graduated. What did you want to do next?
Did not know. Good thing though, my professor, who was my advisor, gave me a roadmap of what I could do with a history degree.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so it just so happened I was working at an insurance company like while I was still in school, and I put in an application at a history museum here in Charlotte that was pretty much they were on the up and up at the time, and I put in an application to be the personal assistant of the executive director. And so it was a history museum. It was right up my alley. It was from 1865 to now, so it was like, right up my alley of what I like to study, what I like to read. And so it was great working there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, was this the history? Is it the history of the New South? Is that what it
Yep,
was?
yep. Levine Museum, yeah, History of New South. Yeah.
Okay. So that's right across the street from my mother's church.
Man, that church, that was built by former slaves. So that
Yep.
that that church history there, I mean, is ridiculous when it comes to Charlotte. And I mean, that's a whole nother conversation that we can go into, man. But
Right.
that church has a lot. That church is a direct reflection of Johnson C. Smith. The people who helped start that church also helped start Johnson C. Smith.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I cannot think of the two guys' names. They were Presbyterian, and they helped start that church. They helped get the money together for that, and they also helped. At the time, Johnson C. Smith was Biddle Institute,
Yeah.
and so they helped get that school started. It was a Presbyterian school, and they helped get that church started and helped get that school started.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I did not know that. I just knew that it was a lot of history there. And I think seeing you on Facebook that you worked there, I was like, wow, that's across, you know what I'm saying? So in fact, I was just there in March. Um and I was just there at the church because my mother, she's retired, but she's like the clerk or something.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Because she can't stop working.
Oh,
Like
they don't stop at that church. They don't stop until it's the end, man.
right.
Yeah, they don't stop.
Right. Right. Okay. So what happened? What was, I guess, the next step then? Are you still there at that museum, or where'd you go after that?
I mean, real quick, I was working at the museum. I hated the working conditions I was working in, not the place. It was just somebody out there. So I went into teaching after that. And
Okay.
so I started teaching history. I taught English, and I did that kind of on and off about 15 years. And then after that, I started teaching music. My last teaching job was actually
Wow.
music. And they had a marching band. It was an elementary school that had a marching band. And so I was teaching music. And they lost their charter. And so
Oh
when
wow.
charter, I I said I wanted to find something else to do. One of my friends, Frog, Tyreek, we were talking about getting a laundromat, but at the time he wasn't really ready, and
Uh,
so I saw a cleaners that was there, and it was in my price range. So I took my retirement money, man, and for the past 7 years, man, I own the dry cleaners.
what? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So what's that been like? Overall experience.
Man, it's been crazy. So, I went through the COVID years of having a small business. I don't know if you remember the South Park area of Charlotte.
Yeah,
Yeah,
speaking of them times we getting out of class, we went to South Park one
yeah,
time.
yeah. So South Park is like its own little niche in Charlotte. Like, I mean, it is the higher echelon of Charlotte.
Uh-huh.
So at first I was the only black business owner in that area. And man, but they treat me great, man. It is it's a great area to have a business in. And it's like I said, for the past 7 years, I mean, even during COVID, man, they were still coming to me. So it's like it just worked out, man. I do marching band uniforms, man. I do them at a cheap price. And
Wow.
so actually, I do Smith uniforms for pro bono. I mean, I do it I get credited for it, but yeah, man, it's just good seeing them, man.
Okay. And Dr. Brock, she's there now.
Yeah,
I met her through something because when I started doing the podcast, you start meeting people.
yeah.
And it was my first time meeting her back in March. Um, and so yeah, that's cool. And I feel like she's doing a good job. And
She's doing
she seemed that, yeah, she seemed like she's really happy there too.
She's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, I hope Charlotte's treating her well, man. I try to keep up, but I at this age I try to stay out of like, hey, you need to be doing this and new, y'all need that type of thing. I try to be as helpful as I can be, and so when she needs the uniforms clean, she lets me know that type of thing, and if the band needs something like hey, we need water, stuff like that. Hey, that's the type of things I just want to make sure that she know, not just myself but other people are around to help out. And so now she's been doing a heck of a job recruiting. The band has like literally done a 180, man. I mean, it was some sad years at Johnson C. Smith, man. I mean, real sad. And she's really got a turnaround going on. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy that she's doing well. Um, and so yeah, I definitely and I'm planning to come back um in March again. My kids get 2 weeks off for spring break.
Oh
And
wow.
I finally got things like in order where I can start taking my family places. Cause before, when I moved out, I wasn't planning to move out here. I got a job and I was gonna kick it forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they opened a Charlotte office like the year after I moved out here, like 2007 or something. And so I was like, hey, when I get older, I'm gonna move back to Charlotte. Like, and so it would be easy. And then I got married and had kids. So now I see you married and got 2 girls. When did you get married?
2002. So it's been like 22 years, 21
Wow.
years. Um, and so I met her at John C. Smith. My 98 year, she was graduating. And so we started dating her last year in college. And she's from the Virgin Islands. I'm from Charlotte, so she just stayed here and just Smith love, man. Just one
Right.
thing and led to another, man. So 2 girls later, and,
Right.
and watching them, man, and they own way. So
And one of them like in school now, right?
yeah, so I got one. She was at North Carolina Central. Now she's at UNCC right here in Charlotte. Man, let me just say something. There's a quick note, man, for your listeners. HBCUs, man, and it's a thing going around. They overbook their colleges, man. They just bring so many freshmen in, and they don't have dormitories for these students.
Oh wow, really?
And man, it put man. My daughter graduated early, so she was 17 when she graduated. So to have my 17-year-old daughter go in there, and then her sophomore year, you don't have housing for her, and we're talking about getting an apartment for her. Like we cannot do this to our kids, man, and it's expensive there, man. Like
Yes.
my daughter is going to UNCC here in Charlotte. The 4 years. Oh, excuse me. Let me get it right. 1 year of going to North Carolina Central counts for 4 years going to UNCC, and the amenities do not add up, man. I'm saying HBCUs. I understand we got like 90% of our kids on financial aid, and we need the money. But come on, we cannot keep doing this.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy, man. And it's crazy too as a parent now, like we parents, and then like we having to do that. Like now, like I remember you had somebody, do you remember I know you remember Deshaun.
yeah. I talked to him the other week. Yeah,
Deshaun said his daughter in school, like that's like a whole nother world to me. But then like dealing with all of the stuff, like how much money it is, or sending them somewhere or something like that. Like that's like a whole nother that's all like that's another world to me. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Um so your daughter is at school now. Your second daughter, she's still in high school.
Yeah, she's in high school. She's actually in an early college program, so she's pretty much not finished with school. Like she still got to take English, but now she's taking college courses, those type of things.
Okay.
Both of my girls, they're classically trained in piano, so both of them, they play real well. My oldest daughter, man, I actually so mad at her, man. She started out on flute, played great on flute, then went to tuba after flute.
Wow.
Phenomenal on tuba. I mean, making districts and all that, man. And I'm like, so then she goes to West Charlotte and plays baritone
Oh
in,
wow.
in the marching band. And I'm like, oh man, and she can play. And then she just quits.
Oh. Wow. Did she say why? She just didn't want to do it no more.
She didn't want to. I mean, I didn't want to push it on her, but she didn't want to do it anymore. And I think it was. And I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it was the program. It was just that the environment that she was in. And she was just like, I don't want to be in this environment. It just wasn't. And I hated it so much because she was so good at it. Like, man, like she could play flute, she could play tuba, and could play. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't even think of how my armature would be able to switch the play those.
That's what I was thinking.
And then to play baritone like it was nothing.
Wow.
It could blow on you. And I'm like, oh, man, made me so upset when she was like, I don't want to be in a band. I even tried to get her at Central to be in a band, but she was like, I can't do it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it hurt my feelings, man.
Yeah. My son actually just stopped playing the trumpet.
Wow.
Yeah, he was actually playing my horn. And with us and our experience with HBCUs, I think that was more exciting. But it ain't like that out here at all. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Understandable.
And, so they would see me do my show, or I'd be showing my kids like YouTube, and they'd be like, yeah, that's cool, Dad. Like, they're, because it ain't around us at all.
Yeah. It don't even matter, man. My kids see me, man. They don't care nothing about that. Hey, your dad, like,
right,
like none of that stuff. And you trying to excite them, like, hey, maybe they want to walk in my footsteps. Man, they don't care about walking. They're making their own path, which is, thank God they doing it, man. But
right,
you kind of wish, like, oh man. And when she was playing baritone, I was like, oh yeah, I got it now.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So that's dope. So we get to the end, and I appreciate you being on the show, man.
No, man. Man.
The other thing, man, I thought about something else too. Actually, I thought about two things real quick. I remember I had never heard of House of Prayer. I only saw it when we would go to Charlotte to my grandmother's, and we would drive down Beatty's Ford, and I saw the House of Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we got up one day, and I think I can't remember who all. I just know Chris Jones was there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to House of Prayer, and they had a band competition.
You talking about their convocation? They do a marching band competition, and that's a big thing, dude.
Oh, that blew my mind, because it was bands from like New York and I remember I said something, and Chris, I'm sure he ain't watching this, but Chris, you my boy, man. So I remember saying to Boo, because I think Boo was there, I think.
Yeah.
And I said, like, man, this is cool that they doing that, but we probably crank on these bands. We should come down here and crank on one of these bands.
Man, don't you do that? Come down there with those crazy mess, man.
Right. Boo said, no, you don't. And he told me, he said Chris Jones went somewhere, and some dude from House of Prayer went crazy on Chris Jones or something, he said. And I was like, wow, I was like, man, I'm so glad I'm here experiencing all this band stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I remember going to that with you, man. That was like in October. They have it every year, man. That was my first time going as well.
Wow.
Charlotte. And couldn't believe I was there. But man, just to see it.
Yep.
Man.
Yep. That was dope. And then we actually walked back to my grandma's house.
Remember that.
We was there chilling at my grandma's house. So yeah, that was special, man. And then years later, I gotta fit this in. When I finished grad school and came back down to Charlotte, we had started a band.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife was just talking about this. She said, "This the guy that was in the band with you." God, he was in the man. Yeah.
Because we was at your house practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
And I man, listen. After that band, and we were kind of trying to do like a jazz thing then. And we did a couple of shows. I don't know if you did it with us, but we did a couple of shows
Mm-hmm.
at a club or whatever. And I went from that band to being into a rock fusion band. It,
Wow.
it was like so funny, man, because I was going from playing an instrument, which I'm talking about like a trumpet or something, baritone, to like playing drums, to like I'm in the church like playing guitar. Like I can't get away from music, man. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's nah, man. I remember that. I was like, yep, Joe Beard was there.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
remember.
man. And then I got the job offer in Nashville.
Mhm.
And I was like, damn, I'm leaving again. Cause that hurt
I
more
remember.
because
I remember.
my house or my grandma had passed then and we
Mhm.
had a house, we just staying in the house.
Yeah.
And my mother was like, you looking after the house for me because she was still in St. Louis. And and end up moving to Nashville. And I was like, damn, like I just can't stay in Charlotte. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I'm
like,
saying?
it couldn't hold you, man. They couldn't hold you, man.
Right. So that was fun. And so then even years later, when I saw you had the history again, you working at the museum, I was like, man, I gotta have him on the show. So it's good to finally touch base with you. I laughed, I guess it was some months ago, you had that thing happen with your bank account and you posted. I was like, wow, really? And you had the graphics and all of that stuff.
Man, listen, I'm on TikTok, man. I be playing around with it, but I knew if I say something, social media is so crazy now, man. You don't even
Right.
need it the news. You don't need to talk to anybody else. You can just get up there yourself and get an audience, man. And I was like, I had never been in a situation like that. And man, I was like, and this is about my business, like my business bank account, like just my livelihood. And I was like, what is going on?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then the last thing, man, I swear you always keep popping up somewhere. I see you, man. Uh Someone had on TikTok or something, they said the 90s bros at something something. And I looked and I clicked on it, and it was you
I know what you're talking about.
doing something like loose deck. I said my something, and I was like, damn. Not only did that trip me out because it was you, but it tripped me out that they were like the 90s bros. Like we old. Like, you know what
Oh,
I'm saying?
dude, they call me Unc. They call me, sir.
What?
All and you know what? It's all good. Some people get mad about the Unc thing. I like, man, that's a sign of respect. They just know I'm not as young as them, but
Right.
at the same time, I'm not somebody grandpa. So hey, we old, man, and you know what? Either you're gonna embrace it, or you're gonna try to keep fighting. I mean, the worst thing, man, I always saw people when I was growing up that try to still like look like they were cool and stuff, like, but you old. Like, come
Right.
on, man. Come on, man. I wear the cargo shorts and the t-shirt. That's what I wear.
Right.
The dad clothes, man. That's what I wear. So that's it.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Somebody called me as a youngster. They I can't remember where it was, but they said excuse me, OG. That's what they said.
That's the other one,
OG.
the OG. Hey, man. Hey, listen. We at that age now, man. Those days, like when we were being stupid, man. Hey, man. Nah, them days are way long gone, man. Which I'm thankful, like I still talk about them though.
Right.
Yeah,
And we still around and learn from our mistakes and everything. So yeah, that's the cool thing. So definitely, man. Let me give you, hold on, let me make sure I'm doing this new thing. Let me give you a round of applause here.
man. Appreciate you, Joe, man.
You here. So we come to the end of the interview, man. And like I say, I appreciate your time, but man, I had been trying to hook up with you for a minute.
For a minute,
Um,
man.
and I definitely want to. We starting to come out to Charlotte every year now. My mom used to come out here when I got married and had kids. She would come out here every year because it was, of course, cheaper, so she could see the grandkids and she could say
Mhm.
she went to California. But then when the virus happened. She's like, I ain't getting on a plane no more, you know. So we went back in March, and we just gonna keep coming back in March because you know my kids got a couple weeks. So I definitely got to touch base with you when I come back.
Please do, man. Please do, man.
Yeah, so we definitely will. But I definitely want to again say, man, I appreciate you bringing me to Smith on the phone. I appreciate you coming to check on me. You know, say you, Mr. Gray. I appreciate you making sure I stayed on my music because I was slipping. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I just appreciate you, man. You always been a good dude, and always looking at, and I'm really proud of you. I didn't know you running your own business now.
Man,
Um,
appreciate you, man. I want to say, man, even knowing you a years, like I knew you all 4 years that you were still there, man. Your name kept coming up. You was always, you know, we talked about you. We talked about, hey, remember that time Joe did this, you know, that
yeah,
type of thing. So it's amazing how in 1 year, not even a full year, man, you can have so much of an impact on people, man. But that's just who you are, Joe, man. You've always been a good guy yourself, man. So man, I always wish you the best, man. Real talk.
yeah, I appreciate that, man. Likewise, likewise. So yeah, I definitely will see you then, and you know, in March, when we come out there. But again, man, I'm glad that you're doing well. Glad you know you got a beautiful family, man. And so you know we like you said, we grown up now. And
Grown, man.
so yeah, so I'm just real happy for you and proud of you with your business, man. I thought you were still teaching. Um, but yeah, man, you running a business now. So that's really dope, man. So glad. And so then I'm sure that you be at all the homecomings and all that stuff like that too.
Yeah, man. I don't miss too many homecomings. I've never missed I only missed 1 year of CIAA, but I'm at it. I'm Smith. I'm most of the football games, the basketball games. I'm still around.
Okay. Okay. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Oh man. Okay. Damn. Okay. So real quick, I gotta fit this in, man.
Go ahead.
You were online for KK
Uh huh.
uh, and y'all couldn't have Chicken King.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
So when I took my family back,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, that whole area is so
Oh,
different now.
gentrified all the way. Yes, sir.
All the way. Two houses down is from my mom is a white family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Yeah.
like, what are they doing there? And the next day morning, I got up and white people were walking their dogs up and
Yes.
down the street
Yes. On Beatty'sford Road.
on Bay. I was like, that whole like that neighborhood where Chris House used to be,
Oh man.
like Clemson flags, and just that whole thing was just a trip. So when I brought my kids around, for me, the old house, the band house, as we said.
Yeah.
Okay. Martin Street is someone my mother knows from Spelman.
Wow.
Okay. And so she owned that lot where the house was
Wow.
and used to get into it with Steve and all of that because they was doing a whole bunch of stupid stuff at the
Stupid
house,
stuff messing that house up, man. Yeah.
messing the house up. Okay. So they tore down the house. She bought the lot and built her own house there. She got her own house there now.
Is that the house that right there right now?
Right there, right now.
Okay, so I say hey to the lady because she's always out doing some little work in the front yard.
Tall.
Yes, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes,
I
that's
don't
her name.
know her name. She don't know me, but I will say hey because she lives in that house, and if I pass by,
Right.
yes, I know
Okay.
exactly.
She's really close friend to the family. Her name is
Wow.
Darnell. And she actually just took my mother to the doctor's office last week.
Wow.
Yeah. So small world. And her family owns that street, that whole street.
Wow.
Martin family. That's her. And so when I take my kids around there or showing them around, I showed them the two-way where we buy the Mickeys and the special brews.
Oh man, those special brews, man.
Special
Smoking miles, man. Come on.
Right. And the Chicken King.
And the Chicken King.
And the Chicken King. And so we didn't get no Chicken King when I was there, but I remember you were online and y'all couldn't have none of that stuff, and we used to sneak y'all food.
Man, it was y'all, and that's another thing about the marching band, dude. Everybody still took care of everybody. Like we could ask,
Right.
like it's like we didn't hide that we was online. We told people we was online. Like, hey, can you go get us this food, man?
Right.
You help us out. Can you
Right.
do that?
I remember that, man, and it was just like, damn, man. Like then I remember y'all went over, and y'all was hopping and all that. I was just like, wow, that was my first fraternity experience,
Yeah,
because I only heard about it, but I saw y'all, you and Frog, because I mean Frog, man, I really love Frog, man, because you remember DJ.
yeah. That's
But
the cousin.
DJ
Yeah,
DJ didn't smoke or did nothing
no,
like that. Like, yeah, so Frog did, and A Dog, they didn't
yeah,
do all that.
yeah, yeah.
So it felt like I could really like kick it with Frog. Like I really connected
You know what
with
you mean?
Frog.
Yeah,
Right. So then y'all went online, man. And so like I remember that. So that was like my first experience in like with the fraternity, because someone's so close, you remember them before, and then you know what I'm
how they
saying.
act. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, man, a lot of good memories, man. You're definitely my Smith experience. You and Chris Jones and Mr. Gray.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
y'all were the ones that I associated with the most. Because of course, that next year Chris showed up at Jackson State.
Which was the craziest thing, right?
Man, and I don't know if I ever told, man. I had to tell you offline about what happened. And I don't know if you know.
Listen, listen, the story. You know how close it is, because when Chris went out there and we started hollering at some of the bros that was at Jackson State, and we hear these stories coming back, and man, listen, that's an offline conversation, Joe.
Right, right.
Man, it was a whole it was Charlotte from Charlotte back to Jackson State, back to Jackson State to Charlotte. It was a whole bunch of mess going on, man, and we
Yes,
heard it all. We heard it all.
yes,
We
yes.
we heard it all, man. We
Oh
heard
man.
it all.
It was something, man. But you talk about personalities with Chris, man. Chris became drum major. His crab name was Goldberg, as you know.
Goldberg. Yeah.
So, when people talked about because we know Chris Jones,
Yeah.
but in Jackson, everybody called him Goldberg. Did
We do.
nobody ever call him Chris?
Yeah.
So that whole experience was funny, man. Like I'm sure, man. I don't know if I told you. I got to tell you the story of introduction day.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that. And then of course, like how they treated the incoming freshman crabs. He had the crab that year,
Yeah.
and all of that, man. Like it was with Chris. It was. I mean, Chris. It was Chris. So it was an unbelievable experience, man. Real quick, we had just marched out of the stadium in Memphis, I think. Or no, yeah, Memphis, because we always play Tennessee State every year.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a picture of Chris in his Johnson C. Smith drum major thing. It was a picture of Smith like in the stadium, like HBCUs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but he was still a crab, and everybody was. I remember then they were like, "Damn, who is this dude?" Like,
Yeah.
you
Like
know what I'm
who is?
saying? Right? Because at first, Chris, they thought he was crazy.
Yeah. Which he
Yeah,
is. Yeah. He is. Yeah. Chris crazy.
right,
Yeah,
right,
we ain't gonna lie about that, man. That's my boy now. I'm gonna tell you that boy crazy.
right. But then they were like, "Damn!" Like, and so that's when. So now how do people feel about Chris and Smith? That's how that Jack said. Like, it's like a myth now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's some other stories, man. I gotta tell you about those.
Man, yeah. When you come in March, man, I can go back and forth with you, man, because then you have your part, and I can connect my part with yours.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, we definitely got to do that, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, again, man, I appreciate you, Kemuel, man. You was definitely part of my whole experience. But like I said, that time when you checked me, it was Wednesday. That's really when I started keeping the focus
That's
on
good.
like my music, and then I had to roll over. And I mean, as you know, with the academics, because I was on academic probation myself,
Mm-hmm.
and so I really just had, because no one had put me in my place at Smith. I had got the big head too much, so I always think about you in that, and that's something I wanted to tell you in person or just at least over the show, because I couldn't tell you like in a Facebook message or something like that. I was like, man, you put me back in my place. Like you kept me on track. So I appreciate you for that, man. I
Yeah,
really do,
so,
man.
for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, again, thanks again for
Man,
being on the show. Um, that's all the time we have for the podcast. Check out the website and donate what's in your heart to the Marching Podcast. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Thanks to you for listening. Do you have anything you want to sign out with before we end the show? Any
man,
advice or anything for young people, whatever you want to say?
man, I just want to say, man, I volunteer at marching band competitions, high school, college, man, and just to see the talent that's out there, man, it's much different when I was growing up, man, and I just want kids to take whatever they can from it, man, whether it's marching band or whatever it's music. I just think it make you a better person, a real rounded person. So whatever you're doing, if you're out there and you're in school and you're in the marching band or you just in band or play piano or orchestra, keep doing what you do and work on your craft. Like literally work on your craft and make it better for you. So
That's
love
what's
you.
up, man. Yeah, love you too, man. Let me give you another round of applause here. All right, y'all. Again, thanks for watching the show. If you want interested in becoming a sponsor or a patron to the Marching Podcast, please contact the show and we'll give you the criteria so we can help the pub your business using our platform. Again, that's all the time we have. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. We own a lot of different, I think they just say a podcast catchers. So we own, yeah, we own a whole bunch of stuff. And we appreciate all the support and everything. So you guys take care. Remember, the eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. See you next time.